We're going to be building this Jeep here. It's been a long time coming because we started this back before COVID. Then you couldn't get stuff. And so...
This is going to be a Jeep buggy?
This is going to be a Jeep. It's a bobtail CJ8, which is the longest one they made. Or it's a CJ7 that's stretched.
Gotcha.
So we're going to make it a CJ7 that's stretched. I built this frame from, I had a JK and an LJ, so I used those to get the shape of the frame where the axles go across and stuff, because like the CJ that also used that. So I had 3 Jeeps I was kind of measuring. So I took these dimensions kind of off of it, because you want to be able to get your articulation of your axles. You don't want them hitting here and you got all your tie rods and stuff going in there.
So you built this from scratch?
Yeah, this is 5-inch tubing and 4-inch tubing, and then I sized it down to tie it together, and I worked on it for a while because I didn't have any parts that I could put in, so I built a frame, which then I had to modify it because I needed a gas tank. This is out of a YJ. This gas tank is wider than a CJ one, but I needed the push pump in for the fuel. So I had to modify it, so I had to notch the frame out, cut it long ways down through here, and then welded it back together to get the spacing so I could get the tank out of it from underneath rather than have to pull the body off the frame to get the fuel tank out of the pump bed.
So do you have to have one of those pumps because of fuel injection? Or because of the angles?
Yeah, it's better to push the fuel than pull it, but I've got the CJ7 that I'm using for parts had a fast injection system on it, and so I think it's got all the pumps and stuff, but it's been, like I said, we started this way before COVID, so now we're kind of trying to figure out what we figured out. But most of the measurements that I've found out are all coming off the front head of the firewall part of the frame of the body. They're all the same, this piece here. So all my measurements will come off the front of the tub. For the motor, you don't want the back of the motor to hit the firewall, so you adjust that, and right here it says engine. This is where the head would hit over in that area. So the motor mounts and all of that will be set up. Then the transfer case is going to mount there. And what we did, this is kind of a mess over here. We weren't planning on doing all this part in the video, but so this is a 350 out of the serial numbers say out of a Camaro 1969 to 71, I think it's what it is. That's a 700R 4-speed manual transmission, and then this transfer case is a Atlas 3.8 to 1. So the measurements will all come off of where this part here, where the front part of here hits the firewall, and then we'll put a crossbar to carry the load for the back for the transfer case.
And you had the transfer case built. It's a custom transfer case, right?
Yeah, it's a custom one. That came pretty quick. It only took them like 2 months to build that, and that was this year. Yep. So these are Dirty Life, I think is what they were. It's been so long since
looks like it.
Dirty Life wheels. They got locking rings on them to hold the tires on. They got a 4.5-inch setback, which Dynatrac says is the best for these because this ball joint alignment hits in the center of the tire. So when you turn it, you don't get all that scruff from it being sticking way out or in.
Got it.
So it's the least stress on all of the steering components as you can get. So
these things are monsters, but at least the weight will be low.
Yeah, which we're trying to keep the Jeep as light as you can, just because they just work better. The heavier they are, the more you have to move around, and the easier they are to tip over. The tub we're using is Aqualoo, which is aluminum. They're made in Canada, but they've this year quit building them
Of
for
course.
some reason. But I've had it for like 4 years trying to get this thing started. So.
Do you know if they build them anywhere else or?
I don't know what they're gonna do. They just said you can buy parts up until the end of the year, so we can buy, they got all kinds of cool stuff. They do all, this is, like I said, a bobbed scrambler. They make Land Rovers, or not Land Rover, but what do you call them? Toyota Land Cruiser parts.
Like the FJ?
Yeah, the bodies and stuff.
Gotcha.
So, but a good friend of mine had this one, and he wore his Jeep totally out. He Jeeps every, a lot of times per year, and he's been doing it for 30 years and totally wore his YJ out. It fell apart, so he got the body and put it on his, and then he's been his Jeep's pretty awesome. He can go a lot of places, so that's why we're kind of basing it off. So we go to Jeeping a lot together. So you'll probably see his Jeep before we get done, but this is all just trying to figure out how to build something when you don't build stuff like this. It's why I wanted to do the YouTube is because this is critical, this measurement here. You can make everything off the front of the tub. Every Jeep starts here, at least the CJs, and so that's why it's just figuring it out. So now we're hoping we might have to cut a lot of stuff apart after we get it on, but we can get the gas tank in first so we know where the differential has to fit, because the rear end, now it's have to move up a little bit more to the front. We want to keep like a 110-inch wheelbase because it seems to work really good in Moab on the hard rocks, the big rocks. And then we want to keep it tall enough. That's why you're going with the taller tires, because when you air them down, then you start losing your height. And airing down really makes them ride a lot better than when they're full of air. So we're going to still have to get tires so we can figure out where to cut the tub. And then the bender is going to make the hoops for the shocks, and probably roll bar parts, and maybe some frame parts for holding coolers and stuff in the back. So right now we're just kind of excited about getting a bender. So I read the instructions, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. There is a video that Rogue has that'll show you the quick steps, 12 minutes or 7 minutes or something like that, where to tack it together so you don't warp it. So we are ready to, what I did is I sanded these all with a DA electric sander to get the scuffs off of it, cleaned it up, ready to weld. So the first thing on the instructions say, put this thing together like that. The plate, there is an up and down. After you sand it, it's hard to see the up. It faces the cylinder mount, which are these two holes right here. Everything else lines up with this, back and forth. Supposed to do it on a flat surface. Keep everything square. So I think if I clamp it, keep this a little bit easier from it moving around. so you don't have them in your welds. All the welds splatter, and there wasn't a huge amount. Okay, this is to put this washer here. It says put it on the inside where the bender wheel goes. So you're just supposed to center that and weld it, 1/4 inch welds, 4 places on it, and do the same on the other one. This way, this goes this way. They drop in those slots. And the other one with the washer inside. And then you need to put the pins in so that the pins are located in the same spot. So you can get your dies in between them. So there's a little bit of adjustment there. So the more pins you have in it, the straighter it'll be. Doesn't move when you're welding it as much. Okay, the battery went dead on the last deal that I was doing, so what I did is I welded these parts right here for the upper head. That's all I did, and then I put it back together because they said you needed to fit it and make sure the pins are going in and out. It's probably easier to actually photo this. I put a die in there just to make sure that everything was fitting. Put the ram in there, make sure it was kind of fit too. So this is what it looks like pre-paint.